In the quietest corner of the forgotten world, tucked away in the deepest vault of the Grand Archive, sat a music box that held a silence far older than any sound. It rested on a velvet cushion inside an acid-free containment unit, uncatalogued, unlabeled, a ghost in the meticulous machinery of history. The air in Vault 734 smelled of ancient paper, dried ink, and the subtle metallic tang of climate control. It was an atmosphere of preservation, of moments frozen against the relentless tide of decay. And in this sterile sanctuary of the past, the music box was an anomaly, a wild, untamed thing, pulsating with a life that defied its static environment. Alara was the first to truly see it. Others had noted it, of course, in terse, dismissive entries over the decades. Unidentified wooden container, ornate, non-functional. Possible reliquary, origin unknown, sealed. But Alara, with her quiet disposition and eyes that saw the stories lingering in the grain of old wood and the fade of forgotten ink, saw something more. She was a junior archivist, a title that felt both too grand and too small for what she did. She was a keeper of echoes, a librarian of whispers. Her days were spent in the hushed company of brittle scrolls and slumbering artifacts, her fingers, gloved in soft white cotton, tracing the lives of people long turned to dust. She found the music box during the Great Recataloguing Initiative, a decade-long project to digitize the archive's most obscure holdings. It was wedged behind a crate of Sumerian tax tablets, as if it had tried to hide itself away. The moment her fingers brushed against its surface, a faint, almost imperceptible warmth bloomed through her cotton glove. It was a warmth like a sleeping breath, a deep and dormant life. She carefully lifted it out. It was heavier than it looked, dense and solid. The wood was a color she had never seen before, a deep, shifting indigo that seemed to swallow the sterile light of the vault. In certain angles, it shimmered with the faint, cosmic violet of a twilight sky. The carvings that covered every inch of its surface were not of flowers or cherubs as one might expect. They were swirling, interconnected patterns that seemed to be part of the wood itself, like a script written in the language of growing things. There were no sharp angles, only flowing, interconnected lines that depicted spiraling galaxies, slumbering celestial creatures, and trees whose roots intertwined with the stars. It was breathtaking and utterly silent. There was no keyhole, no visible lid or seam, no winding mechanism. It was a perfect, sealed object, a puzzle box carved from a dream. Alara spent her lunch breaks and late evenings with it, sitting at her small restoration desk under the gentle glow of a Luxo lamp. She documented its every detail with a reverence that bordered on obsession. She measured its dimensions, photographed its carvings from 100 different angles, and ran spectrographic analyses on the strange wood. The results were always the same: inconclusive, organic material of unknown origin. The wood shared no cellular structure with any known species of tree on Earth. It was, for all intents and purposes, alien. But Alara knew it wasn't from the stars, not in the way of metal and meteors. This felt older, deeper. It felt as if it had been grown in the soil of magic itself. Her research led her down forgotten paths, into the archive's most dust-choked annexes. She found passing references in the journals of a 16th century mystic, vague descriptions of dreamwood that grew only in the moonlight of a forgotten realm. He wrote of whispersmiths who could shape this wood, not with tools but with song, coaxing it into forms that could hold echoes of creation. The texts were dismissed as folklore, filed under occult and esoterica. But as Alara compared the mystic's frantic sketches of spiraling, star-rooted trees with the carvings on the box, a thrilling sense of recognition shivered through her. She was on the right path. Days turned into weeks. The music box sat on her desk, a silent companion in the quiet hum of the archive after hours. She would talk to it sometimes, her voice a soft murmur in the vast stillness. She told it about her day, about the frustrating bureaucracy of the archive, about her dreams of discovering something truly magical. The box remained silent, its indigo surface cool and smooth beneath her questing fingertips. She began to notice things others had missed, a subtle pattern in the star charts carved on its top. The constellations were not the ones visible from Earth. They were alien, yet hauntingly familiar, as if from a dream she couldn't quite recall. And within one of the spiraling galaxies, almost perfectly hidden in the dense knotwork of the carving, was a tiny, almost invisible glyph. It was a single, elegant symbol, a stylized sound wave intertwined with a blooming lotus. She cross-referenced the glyph through every database she could access: ancient languages, alchemical symbols, astrological charts. Nothing. It was a word from a language no one had ever spoken, or perhaps one that everyone had forgotten. It was on a cold, rainy Tuesday night when the rhythmic drumming of water against the high-arched windows of the reading room was the only sound that she found the next clue. It was in a fragile vellum scroll, a text on harmonic resonance and ethereal architecture. The scroll described a theoretical concept of acoustic keys, the idea that certain objects were not locked by physical mechanisms but by specific frequencies of sound. A lock that requires a song, the text read, will only open for the singer who knows its heart. The idea was absurd. It was the stuff of fairy tales. But as she looked at the silent music box on her desk, it felt like the most profound truth in the world. The glyph, she realized, was not a word to be read, but a note to be sung. A single, perfect note that would resonate with the dreamwood and awaken the magic within. But what note? The scroll gave no answers. It was a theoretical treatise, not a practical guide. For days, Alara felt a sense of quiet despair. The answer was right in front of her, yet impossibly far away. The silence of the box seemed to mock her. She tried humming different tones, from deep bass notes to high ethereal pitches. She even used a frequency generator from the audio restoration lab, methodically sweeping through the audible spectrum. The box remained impassive, its secrets locked tightly within its magical heartwood. She was close to giving up, to consigning the box back to its anonymous shelf in Vault 734, another mystery to be forgotten by time. She sought one evening, long after her colleagues had gone home, tracing the carvings on the box one last time. Her finger followed the swirling lines of the unknown constellations, the silent dance of cosmic dust, the roots of the star trees. She felt a profound sense of connection to the long-dead whispersmith who had sung this object into existence, a loneliness that stretched across centuries. Without thinking, she began to hum. Not a specific note from a scale, not a calculated frequency. It was a simple, absent-minded tune, a forgotten lullaby her grandmother used to sing to her when she was a child, a melody that felt like home and safety and the soft glow of a nightlight in a dark room. It was a melody of pure, unthinking comfort. As the last note faded from her lips, a soft click echoed in the silence of the room. It was a sound so tiny, so delicate, it was more felt than heard. Alara's breath caught in her throat. She looked down at the box. A section of the intricate carving on the side, a part she had examined 1,000 times, had shifted. A hairline seam, finer than a spider's thread, had appeared where none had been before. It wasn't a lid. It was a small, perfectly square panel, sliding back to reveal a tiny, dark aperture. It was a keyhole, but not for a metal key. The shape was wrong. It was a perfect circle, no larger than a pinhead, and impossibly deep. The text about acoustic keys flashed in her mind. A lock that requires a song. The lullaby had been the first part of the key. It hadn't opened the box, but it had revealed the lock. It was a sign, an invitation from the past. It was telling her she was worthy. Now, she just needed the true key. Her research began anew, this time with a frantic, hopeful energy. She no longer searched for information about the wood or the carvings, but about the melody itself. The lullaby her grandmother sang, where did it come from? It had no words she could remember, just a simple, haunting series of notes. Her quest led her to folk music archives, to collections of oral histories, to ancient chants passed down through generations. She found fragments of the melody in the most unexpected places, in a northern sea shanty, in a highland lament, in a desert traveler's benediction. It was a ghost of a tune, a thread woven through the music of the world, but she could never find the original, complete song. It was always a piece, an echo. The breakthrough came from her own history. While sorting through a box of her late grandmother's possessions, she found an old, leather-bound diary. Most of it was filled with recipes and daily observations, but tucked into the back pocket was a small, folded piece of sheet music, the paper yellowed and brittle with age. The notes were written in her grandmother's elegant, spidery hand. At the top of the page, in faded ink, were the words, "Aria of the Sleeper." It was the lullaby, the complete melody from the first gentle note to the final, peaceful resolution. Ilara felt a tremor of destiny, a feeling that this was not a coincidence, that her entire life had been a quiet journey towards this single moment. She knew, with a certainty that resonated in her very bones, that this was the key. Not just the notes, but the intention behind them, the love and comfort her grandmother had poured into that song. She returned to the archive that night, the precious sheet music held carefully in her hands. The building was empty, a cathedral of sleeping knowledge. Under the soft glow of her lamp, she placed the music box before her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a wild drum against the profound silence. She took a deep breath, calming her nerves, focusing on the memory of her grandmother's voice, on the feeling of safety that the song had always given her. She closed her eyes and began to sing. She sang the aria of the sleeper, her voice soft but clear in the vast empty room. She poured all the love, all the hope, all the quiet wonder she felt into the melody. The notes flowed from her, not as a performance, but as a prayer. As the final, beautiful note hung in the air, vibrating with a gentle power, a second sound joined it. It was not a click this time. It was a low, resonant hum, emanating from the music box itself. The hum grew, a pure, harmonic tone that seemed to fill the room, to vibrate in the very air she breathed. The small, circular keyhole began to glow with a soft silver light. Ilara watched, mesmerized, as the light intensified. The hum resonated deep within her chest, a feeling of profound peace and ancient magic washing over her. The carvings on the box began to glow as well, the celestial patterns and star-rooted trees tracing themselves in lines of faint lavender light. The air grew heavy with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and something else, something like starlight and dreams. Then, as suddenly as it began, the humming stopped. The light in the keyhole faded. Silence returned to the room, but it was a different kind of silence now. It was not empty. It was full of anticipation, of a breath held for centuries. Slowly, with an almost silent grace, the top of the music box began to rise. There was no sound of mechanics, no grinding of gears. It simply levitated, lifting a few inches from its base and hovering in the air above it, held aloft by some unseen, magical force. Ilara leaned forward, her breath catching in her throat, her eyes wide with a wonder she hadn't felt since she was a small child. Nestled within the velvet-lined interior was not a complex array of cogs and gears as she had expected. Instead, there was a single, perfectly smooth crystal shaped like a sleeping seed. It pulsed with a soft internal light, the same lavender glow as the carvings. Around the crystal, tiny, hair-thin filaments of a silvery metal were arranged in a complex, web-like pattern, connecting the crystal to the inner walls of the box. As the cool air of the vault touched the crystal for the first time in millennia, it began to vibrate. A single, impossibly pure note filled the air. It was a sound that was both music and light, a tone that seemed to unlock a forgotten chamber in her heart. The note held for a long moment, shimmering in the stillness, and then it was joined by another and another, weaving together into a simple, heartbreakingly beautiful harmony. It was the beginning of the melody, the true melody, not the lullaby she had sung, but something far, far older. It was the song that the lullaby was just an echo of. The forgotten melody of the music box began to play, and as the first stanza unfolded, Ilara felt a profound drowsiness settle over her, a deep and peaceful weariness that felt like coming home. The intricate notes wove a tapestry of sound around her, telling a silent story of starlit creation, of cosmic slumbers, and of worlds born from dreams. Her eyelids grew heavy, the sterile lights of the archive softened and blurred, and the hard edges of the world began to melt away into a gentle, welcoming haze. The music was not just entering her ears, it was seeping into her very soul, soothing old hurts she didn't know she had, quieting fears she hadn't realized were so loud. She felt herself drifting, floating on the gentle currents of the ancient tune. The last thing she saw before her eyes closed was the pulsing crystal, its lavender light expanding, filling her vision with its soft, peaceful glow. The forgotten melody played on, its magic finally unleashed, and Ilara, the keeper of echoes, floated down into the deepest, most dream-filled sleep of her life, unaware of the profound changes the awakened music was beginning to work on the silent, sleeping world outside the archive's walls. The lavender light did not stay contained within the crystal, nor did the music remain within the vault. It flowed outwards, a silent, shimmering river of peace. First, it touched the cold metallic shelves of the archive. The data crystals, which had held their silent information for centuries in perfect cold stasis, began to hum with a sympathetic resonance. A faint, pearlescent sheen, like the inside of a seashell, bloomed across their surfaces. Dust motes, caught in the expanding aura of the music, ceased their aimless tumbling and began to drift in slow, elegant spirals, tracing the shape of the melody in the air. The very stone of the floor seemed to sigh, releasing a tension it had held since its quarrying. The music was not erasing the silence of the archive, it was giving it a gentle, beating heart. It seeped through the thick, soundproof doors of the vault, not as sound, but as a pervasive feeling, a change in the quality of the air. It moved like the scent of night-blooming jasmine, unseen but undeniable. It slid through the ventilation shafts, a whispered secret to the sleeping maintenance drones, whose indicator lights softened from a sharp, clinical blue to a gentle, pulsing lilac. The grand echoing halls of the archive, usually filled with a profound and heavy quiet, were now filled with a quiet that was alive, expectant, and deeply restful. The melody was a tide, and the whole world was its shore. Outside, under a sky awash with the cold, distant light of 1,000 sleeping stars, the city of Althena lay still. It was a city of order, of quiet efficiency, where sleep was a scheduled necessity, a resetting of the mind for another day of logical pursuits. Dreams, in Althena, were rare and often unsettling occurrences, glitches in the biological clockwork that were best forgotten upon waking. The first ripples of the melody broke against the city's foundations, far below the sleeping streets. They did not shake the stone, they soothed it. The music was not erasing the silence of the archive, it was giving it a gentle beating heart. It seeped through the thick, soundproof doors of the vault, not as sound, but as a pervasive feeling, a change in the quality of the air. It moved like the scent of night-blooming jasmine, unseen but undeniable. It slid through the ventilation shafts, a whispered secret to the sleeping maintenance drones, whose indicator lights softened from a sharp, clinical blue to a gentle, pulsing lilac. The grand echoing halls of the archive, usually filled with a profound and heavy quiet, were now filled with a quiet that was alive, expectant, and deeply restful. The melody was a tide, and the whole world was its shore. Outside, under a sky awash with the cold, distant light of 1,000 sleeping stars, the city of Althena lay still. It was a city of order, of quiet efficiency, where sleep was a scheduled necessity, a resetting of the mind for another day of logical pursuits. Dreams, in Althena, were rare and often unsettling occurrences, glitches in the biological clockwork that were best forgotten upon waking. The first ripples of the melody broke against the city's foundations, far below the sleeping streets. They did not shake the stone, they soothed it. The melody flowed upwards, through the earth and the pipes and the ancient foundations, carrying with it the scent of deep soil and sleeping minerals. It rose into the quiet squares and silent avenues. The ever-watchful globes of light that lined the boulevards, which normally cast a stark white glare, began to soften. Their light became warmer, more like candlelight, casting long, gentle shadows that no longer seemed to hide threats, but instead offered quiet places to rest. In the Weavers' district, where looms stood silent for the night, a woman named Anya tossed in her sleep. Her dreams were, as always, a tapestry of gray. She dreamt of the monotonous shuttles, the endless warp and weft of gray thread on a gray background, the patterns dictated by the Council of Aesthetics, sensible, logical, and devoid of all frivolity. Her hands in the waking world were stained with gray dye, and so too, it seemed, was her soul. But tonight, something new entered her dream. A single thread of color, the soft, impossible lavender of the music box's crystal, appeared on her loom. In her dream, she reached out a tentative hand, her heart aching with a forgotten longing. She touched the thread, and it felt warm, alive. It hummed with a tiny, perfect note. As her dream fingers traced it, the thread unspooled, weaving itself into her gray tapestry, not in a logical pattern, but in a wild, beautiful spiral. From that spiral bloomed other colors, the deep, velvety blue of a twilight sky, the pale, hopeful green of the first leaf of spring, the fiery gold of a sun she had only ever seen in historical data files. Anya, in her small gray room, smiled in her sleep for the first time in years, a single tear of pure, unadulterated joy tracing a path through the dust on her cheek. The melody continued its journey, a ghost of a breeze drifting through the scholars' quarter. It found its way into the high observatory of Master Valerius, a man whose life was dedicated to the precise and unwavering orbits of the celestial bodies. He knew the name of every star, the exact trajectory of every comet, the mathematical equation that governed the slow waltz of the galaxies. He saw the universe as a grand, intricate clock, and he was its devoted timekeeper. His dreams were of charts, of numbers, of endless, elegant calculations. But as the ancient tune flowed through the open dome of his observatory, it wrapped itself around the lenses of his great telescope and whispered a different truth. Valerius's dream of numbers dissolved. He was no longer looking at the stars, he was among them. The constellations were not mere points of light in a vacuum, but vast, slumbering creatures of breathtaking beauty. The Great Bear was a slow, dreaming beast of shimmering fur, its breath a nebula of soft pinks and golds. The Serpent was a river of diamond scales, flowing through the endless night. And they were singing. Each star, each planet, each mote of cosmic dust was contributing its own note to the grand, universal harmony, the very same melody that was now filling his world. He heard the deep, resonant bass of a black hole, the high, clear soprano of a newly born star, the gentle, rhythmic hum of his own world turning in its sleep. For the first time, he did not understand the sky, he felt it. And the feeling was not of cold, mathematical perfection, but of an immense, profound, and all-encompassing love. In his sleep, the old astronomer's hand, which was curled around a complex slide rule, relaxed and opened, as if to welcome the starlight. Meanwhile, in her deep, dream-filled slumber within the archive's heart, Ilara was also drifting among the stars. But she was not an observer, she was a passenger on the melody itself. The music was a vessel, and it carried her back through the echoes of time to the song's beginning. She floated in a void that was not empty, but full of potential. It was a warm, soft darkness, humming with the first note of the melody. Before her, a shape coalesced from the humming darkness. It was a being of pure light and sound, with long, graceful limbs that seemed to trail stardust. It was one of the first weavers, the beings who, according to the oldest fragments of myth, had sung the universe into existence. It was not singing with a voice, but with its entire form. Light and harmony poured from it, and where the notes touched the void, reality began to form. Ilara watched, weightless and serene, as the weaver spun a single, perfect note into a thread of shimmering light. It was the note that began everything, the same note that had first sounded from the crystal in the box. The weaver was joined by another and another, their forms of light dancing in the vast emptiness. They began to weave the threads of sound together on a loom made of gravity and time. They wove the dense, heavy notes of matter, the bright, fleeting notes of energy, the slow, ponderous chords of planetary orbits, and the quick, silvery arpeggios of shooting stars. They were creating the great tapestry, and its pattern was the song. The music box was not just a relic, it was a seed, a tiny, perfect echo of the creation song, left behind to remind the universe how to dream, how to heal, how to remember its own beautiful beginning. Ilara felt this knowledge settle into her not as a thought, but as a deep cellular certainty. Her role as keeper of echoes was not just to preserve the past, but to nurture the seed of the world's first and truest dream. Back in the city of Althena, the melody found its way into the lowest and most forgotten parts of the metropolis. In the Undercity, where steam pipes hissed and the only light came from the perpetual glow of fungal patches on the walls, a young boy named Kyle shivered in his sleep. His dreams were of being lost in the endless, twisting tunnels, of the drips of water that sounded like footsteps behind him. He was a small boy in a big, indifferent world, and his sleep was a fearful, shallow thing. The melody did not enter his cramped room through a window or a door, for there were none. It seeped through the damp stone walls, carrying with it the memory of starlight. It did not banish the shadows in Kyle's dream, it befriended them. The long, menacing shadow of a steam pipe softened at its edges, bent itself into the shape of a friendly, long-necked beast that nuzzled his dream self's hand. The frightening drip, drip, drip of water became a steady, comforting rhythm, a gentle drumbeat accompanying the melody. The glowing fungi on the walls of his dream brightened, pulsing in time with the music, their light no longer sickly and green, but warm and golden, like 1,000 tiny suns. Kyle, who always slept curled into a tight, defensive ball, slowly unfurled. A small, peaceful sigh escaped his lips as, for the first time, his dream world felt like a safe and magical place. The music was not just for people. It drifted into the small, carefully tended hydroponic gardens on the city's rooftops. The nutrient solution in the pipes began to vibrate gently. The tightly closed buds of the lunar poppies, which were meant to bloom only on the solstice, began to tremble. Under the soft, candlelight glow of the city lights, their petals began to unfurl, not with the precision of a genetically programmed response, but with the slow, languid grace of a deep and satisfying stretch. They released a soft, silvery pollen into the air, each grain a tiny carrier of the ancient melody, ready to be carried on the morning breeze. Even the city's complex network of pneumatic tubes, usually silent at this hour, felt the change. The pressurized air within them, which normally sat stagnant, began to circulate in a slow, deep breath that moved through the entire city. The soft whoosh of its movement was a perfect harmony to the melody, a sigh of contentment from the city's own mechanical lungs. In her cosmic dream, Ilara was shown another vision by the Weavers of Light. She saw her own world, Althena, as it was meant to be. She saw it not from above, but from within, as a single sleeping entity. She saw the lines of connection, the invisible threads that bound every living thing and every thinking machine together. She saw the lines of connection, the invisible threads that bound every living thing and every thinking machine together. The soft whoosh of its movement was a perfect harmony to the melody, a sigh of contentment from the city's own mechanical lungs. In her cosmic dream, Ilara was shown another vision by the Weavers of Light. She saw her own world, Althena, as it was meant to be. She saw it not from above, but from within, as a single sleeping entity. She saw the lines of connection, the invisible threads that bound every living thing and every thinking machine together. For centuries, these threads had been dull and gray, vibrating with the low, anxious hum of pure logic and function. But now, as the melody spread, she watched in wonder as the threads began to glow. The thread connected to Anya the Weaver pulsed with a rainbow of nascent colors. The one reaching to Master Valerius shimmered with the deep, vast light of a nebula. The tiny, brave thread connected to the boy Kael in the Undercity began to shine with a steady golden light, pushing back the darkness. She saw the melody strengthening these connections, healing the tiny frays and breaks caused by years of forgotten wonder. It was mending the soul of the city, one dream at a time. The weavers showed her that sleep was not an absence, not a void, but a sacred space. It was the workshop where the soul was rewoven, where the hurts of the day were gently mended, and where the seeds of new ideas could be planted in the fertile darkness. The people of Althena had forgotten. They had treated sleep as a function, and in doing so had left the workshop of their souls dark and silent. The music box was the key, left to relight the lamps and restart the loom. The melody's influence continued to expand, its outermost ripples now reaching the very edge of the city. It flowed over the great perimeter wall and out into the quiet agricultural fields beyond. The automated farming constructs, parked in silent rows for their recharging cycle, felt the vibration. Their internal chronometers, which governed their every movement, began to drift, to slow down, to fall into the gentle, timeless rhythm of the music. A harvester, its great metal arms resting by its side, dreamt. It did not dream in images, but in pure sensation. The feeling of warm sun on its metallic chassis, the scent of rich, damp earth, the deep satisfaction of a perfectly ripe stalk of grain being gently severed. It was a dream of purpose, not as a command in its programming, but as a joyful participation in the life of the world. The melody whispered over the fields of sleeping moon wheat. The stalks, which stood in rigid, perfect rows, began to sway, though there was no wind. They moved together, a single silver ocean under the distant stars, their rustling leaves a soft percussive accompaniment to the silent song. The very soil itself seemed to relax, its microorganisms stirring in their slumber, nourished by the harmony. Far from the city, in a high mountain pass, lived an old hermit named Silas, a man who had left the logic of Althena behind decades ago. He believed the world had a song, but his old ears could no longer hear it. He slept on a simple cot in a stone hut, his dreams filled with the frustration of a silence he could not break. The music reached him as a faint vibration in the stone floor of his hut. It climbed the leg of his cot and entered his bones before it ever reached his ears. In his dream, the silence finally broke. It was not a loud shattering, but a gentle melting. The song of the mountain, a deep, slow chord that had been playing for millennia, was suddenly audible to him. He heard the whisper of the wind as it wove its way through the pine needles, the contented creak of the ancient trees, the tiny bell-like chime of ice forming on the highest peaks. And woven through it all was the new, yet impossibly ancient, melody from the city far below. It was the connecting harmony, the missing piece that allowed him to hear the whole symphony. Old Silas wept in his sleep, his hands clenching and unclenching on his thin blanket, not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming relief of hearing an old, beloved friend's voice after a lifetime of silence. The reach of the music was vast now, a continent-spanning blanket of peace. It flowed over oceans, calming the restless currents. Sleeping leviathans in the deep, dreaming of pressure and cold, felt a warmth spread through their immense bodies. Their own deep, resonating songs, used to navigate the crushing dark, shifted in pitch, harmonizing with the melody that now permeated the very water around them. Schools of phosphorescent fish, sleeping in the gentle currents of the abyss, began to pulse their light in time with the music, creating vast, silent constellations in the sunless depths. And in the center of it all, wrapped in the source of the expanding peace, Ilara drifted deeper. The cosmic vision of the weavers faded, replaced by something simpler, more intimate. She felt the dream presence of every soul the music touched. She felt Anya's quiet joy at the discovery of color. She felt Valerius's awe at the living sky. She felt Kael's newfound safety in his glowing, friendly darkness, and Silas's profound relief at the return of the world's song. She felt the contentment of the harvester, the gentle sway of the moon wheat, the deep, resonant peace of the Leviathan. She was not just the keeper of echoes anymore. She was connected to them all, a part of the vast, dreaming consciousness of her world. The music box was the instrument, the melody was the song, but the dreamers, every person, every animal, every plant, every quiet machine, were the symphony. Her heart beat in time with the gentle rhythm of the music, and with each beat, a wave of peace, of healing, of profound and gentle love pulsed outwards from the heart of the archive, reinforcing the song, strengthening the dream, and lulling the entire world into the most restorative and beautiful sleep it had known since the day it was first sung into being. Her own breath was a quiet rhythm, a soft cadence in the grand lullaby, as she and her world dreamt together, cradled in the forgotten melody. The melody was not outside her now, it was within. It was the marrow in her bones, the light behind her eyes. Her consciousness, no longer tethered to the quiet form of a girl in a dusty archive, became a current within the vast river of the song. She was a single, shimmering thread woven into the tapestry of the world's dreaming, and from this vantage point, she could feel the texture of every other thread beside her. She drifted first towards the echo of Silas the Tinker, the man whose heart had so deeply feared the silence. His dream was not a quiet one, but it was profoundly peaceful. He dreamt he was standing inside the great clock tower of the city, but it was a clock made not of brass and iron, but of glass and light and living wood. Instead of the harsh ticking he had grown to dread, each movement of the crystalline gears produced a soft, resonant chime, a unique note in a perpetual chord of harmony. He saw the city through the clock's translucent face, and he could perceive the song of every single thing. The low, steady hum of the water pipes beneath the streets was a bass line. The gentle sigh of the automated street sweepers was a percussive whisper of brushes on stone. Even the quiet glow of the lamps lining the boulevards had a sound, a high, silvery hiss like starlight falling to earth. In his dream, Silas reached out a hand, his fingers tracing the curve of a giant, slow-turning gear. As he touched it, he felt its vibration not as a mechanical tremor, but as a pulse of life. He was not merely hearing the world's song, he was a part of its orchestra, his own steady heartbeat a quiet, essential drum. Alara felt his decades of anxiety unwinding like a tightly coiled spring, its tension dissolving into the harmonious hum of his perfectly ordered, perfectly musical world. A current of starlight pulled her onwards towards the sleeping mind of Valerius. The old astronomer was no longer looking at the sky, he was swimming in it. His dream body was weightless, a constellation of himself adrift in the cosmic ocean he had studied for so long. He drifted through nebulae that felt like cool, silken veils against his skin, their colors, rose and violet and gold, humming with ancient, creative energy. The stars were not distant points of fire, but warm, pulsing spheres of light, each singing its own unique verse of the celestial song. He could hear the slow, deep gravity songs of planets turning in their orbits, the crackling static of comets trailing tales of frozen memory, the grand galactic chorus that the music box had unlocked for him. He reached out and touched a passing asteroid, not a cold, dead rock, but a vessel of time itself. He felt the echo of its creation, the long, lonely journey through the void, the faint warmth it had gathered from 1,000 suns. It was a library of stone and silence, and now he could read its story. He laughed, a soundless burst of joy that sent ripples through the stardust around him, as he realized the sky was not empty space dotted with objects, but a single living entity, and he was a momentary, blissful thought within its infinite mind. Ilara felt his intellectual awe transform into a profound spiritual belonging, the loneliness of the observer replaced by the unity of the participant. Then, a flicker of pure, unadulterated sensation drew her to Anya, the weaver's apprentice. Her dream was a torrent of a world reborn. She stood in a field not of moon wheat, but of color itself. The ground beneath her bare feet was the feeling of deep, mossy green, cool and soft and alive. The sky was not blue, it was the concept of blue, an endless expanse that tasted of fresh water and felt like a clear, high note held forever. From the ground grew flowers whose petals were not merely colored, but were the very essence of their hue. A crimson rose was the feeling of warmth, the taste of ripe berries, the sound of a beating heart. A yellow lily was the sensation of sunlight on skin, the scent of honey and citrus, the bright, clear chime of a small bell. Anya wept with joy, her tears not salty water, but liquid silver, each drop landing on the ground and sprouting a new, impossible color. She began to weave, not with thread, but with the raw stuff of her dream. She pulled a strand of laughter from the air, a shimmering, golden thing, and wove it into a ribbon of melancholy, a soft indigo velvet. She gathered the orange of a sunset and braided it with the pale green of a new leaf. She was not just seeing color, she was composing with it, creating a symphony of sensation that painted the world with the emotions her heart had always held but had never before been able to see. Ilara felt the monochrome dam of Anya's perception break, flooded by a tidal wave of beauty that was healing the very way she perceived reality. A gentle, protective impulse guided Ilara's awareness to Kyle, the small boy who had been so afraid of the dark. His dream was a testament to the music's gentle power of transformation. He was not hiding from the darkness, he was floating in it, and it was the softest, kindest thing he had ever known. It was not the absence of light, but a different kind of substance, like deep, warm water or thick, plush velvet. And within this gentle dark swam creatures of soft internal light. Great, silent sky whales, their bodies patterned with swirling, luminous nebula, drifted past him, their slow, blinking eyes full of ancient calm. Schools of tiny star jellies, like living constellations, pulsed with gentle blues and greens, leaving faint, sparkling trails in their wake. Kale reached out, and a moondrift moth, its wings made of paper-thin, glowing silver, landed delicately on his finger. It had no heat, only a cool, soothing luminescence that illuminated his own small hand. He was not afraid. The darkness was his friend, a quiet, magical place full of gentle wonders. He was the sole audience for a silent, beautiful ballet of light. In his dream, he curled up, held afloat by the comforting dark, and watched the light creatures swim by, his fear replaced by a deep and abiding sense of peace and wonder. Ilara felt the tight knot of his childhood terror gently loosen, its threads rewoven into a blanket of safety and magic. Her awareness expanded, moving beyond the individuals she knew, out into the wider world, touching the dreams of those she did not. She felt the dream of the harvester in the moon wheat fields. He dreamt he was a single stalk of wheat, his roots deep in the cool soil, his head bowed with the weight of silver grain. He felt the moonlight not as light but as nourishment, a cool, liquid energy seeping into him. He felt the gentle sway of the wind as a dance, a collective movement shared with a million brothers and sisters. He felt the contentment of growth, the quiet purpose of ripening, the deep, earthy peace of being exactly what he was meant to be, in exactly the right place. There was no worry of the harvest, no ache in his muscles, only the profound, silent joy of being part of the land's slow, rhythmic breath. Ilara's consciousness sank deeper, past the soil, into the rock and stone of the world itself. And here, too, there was a form of dreaming. The mountains did not dream in pictures or stories, but in pressures and timescales beyond human comprehension. Ilara felt the slow, glacial dream of a mountain range being born, the immense, patient grinding of tectonic plates, the crush of stone becoming diamond, the feeling of millennia passing like single heartbeats. It was a dream of stability, of permanence, of a deep and unshakable identity. The music flowed through the rock, not as sound, but as a harmonizing vibration, soothing ancient stresses in the stone, calming the deep, fiery heart of the world, and reinforcing the mountain stream of being an eternal, silent guardian. She let the current of the song carry her back to the sea, to be immense, sleeping leviathans. Their collective dream, touched by the melody, had blossomed. they no longer dreamt only of pressure and the hunt in the crushing dark. Now, their vast, slow minds dreamt together, a shared vision woven from the echoes of their ancestors. They dreamt of a warmer, younger ocean, a world where the sun reached deeper. They dreamt of swimming through sun-dappled kelp forests the size of continents, of breaching not into air but into a sky of liquid light. In their shared dream, they could speak to one another not just in clicks and moans, but in pure understanding, sharing memories of ancient migratory routes and songs their species had forgotten. The music was a key, unlocking a deep racial memory, healing the loneliness of their solitary lives in the abyss. They were a pod again, a nation, swimming together in the peaceful ocean of their shared mind. Even the machines, the quiet, sleeping automatons of the cities, were touched. Their logic gates, their crystalline processors, usually dormant in their low-power states, now hummed with a different kind of activity. It was not thought, but a kind of digital resonance. A cleaning drone dreamt in patterns of pristine, unblemished surfaces, a perfectly ordered mosaic of clean tiles stretching to infinity. A transport unit dreamt of a flawless, frictionless journey, a smooth, silent glide along a path of pure light. Their dreams were simple, geometric, and profoundly serene. The music soothed their circuits, smoothed the microscopic, jagged edges of wear on their internal components, and imbued their simple directives with a sense of harmony. They were dreaming of fulfilling their purpose perfectly, and in that, there was a strange and quiet mechanical peace. Ilara felt her own role shifting. She was not merely observing these dreams, she was tending to them. Her consciousness, carried on the waves of the melody, was like a gentle hand. Where she sensed a flicker of old anxiety in a dreamer, a brief, shadowy memory of a past hurt, she could guide a current of the music to that spot, reinforcing the peace, smoothing the troubled water of the subconscious. She became a dream weaver, strengthening the threads of peace, gently untangling the knots of fear, adding a touch of light here, a note of comfort there. She did not change the dreams, but rather helped the dreamer find the most beautiful, restorative path within their own mindscape. She helped a baker, stressed by the demands of his work, to dream of kneading dough made of cloud, light and airy and endlessly forgiving. She helped a scholar, frustrated by a difficult text, to dream that the words lifted off the page and danced for him, revealing their meaning in elegant, intuitive patterns. She felt a pull, a gentle but insistent tug, drawing her attention back towards the center, back towards the archive. But it wasn't a call to her physical body. It was the music itself, calling her deeper into its own heart. As her awareness traveled back along the stream of melody, the dreams of the world became a soft, surrounding chorus, and the music box itself became the focus. Drifting closer to the source, she began to perceive not just the music, but the memory held within it. The melody was a vessel, an echo far older and grander than any of the glass jars that lined her shelves. She felt the hands of the weavers who had crafted the box, not as a vision, but as a sense of profound, loving intention embedded in the very grain of the wood and the crystalline structure of the comb. They had not been creating a mere toy or even just a tool for sleep. They had been forging an instrument of cosmic empathy. She felt their sorrow. It was a faint, ancient echo, a deep bass note of grief that underpinned the beautiful, soaring melody. They had lived in a time when the world's own song had become discordant, a time of noise and fear and separation. The silence had been a symptom of a deeper illness, a world that had forgotten how to listen to itself. The weavers had seen the people, the creatures, the very land growing isolated, their individual songs clashing instead of harmonizing. This music box, this lullaby, was their answer. It was a harmonic key designed to remind the world of its fundamental unity. It didn't impose a single song, but rather created a frequency upon which all the individual songs could find their harmony again. The melody was a tuning fork for the soul of the world. Ilara understood. The restorative sleep was not the end goal, it was the method. In this shared, peaceful dream state, guided by the ancient melody, the world was healing itself. The frayed connections between minds and hearts, between creatures and the land, were being rewoven. The music was reminding the mountain of its connection to the sea, the dreamer of his connection to the stars, the tinker of his connection to the quiet, living pulse of his city. Her heart, beating in the chest of her still, sleeping body in the heart of the archive, was the amplifier. Her unique connection to the echoes, her lifetime spent listening to the memories of others, had made her the perfect catalyst. She was the one who could bridge the gap, who could feel the needs of all the dreamers and gently, instinctively, guide the music's healing flow. She was not just the keeper of echoes, she was the conductor of the dream. She did not feel burdened by this realization. Instead, she felt a sense of profound purpose, as light and natural as a leaf turning towards the sun. This was what she was for. This was the ultimate expression of her duty. She poured her own essence into the flow. Her love for the quiet stories in the archive, her compassion for the lonely and the frightened, her deep, abiding belief in the beauty of the world. Her own spirit became another layer of the melody, a personal touch of warmth that spread out across the continents, adding to the piece. And the dream continued to deepen. The colors in Anya's mind grew richer, the stars in Valerius's sky sang more clearly. The quiet light creatures in Kyle's friendly darkness glowed with a steadier, more comforting light. The world, wrapped in a blanket of sound and sleep and shared dreaming, breathed a long, slow, collective sigh. The healing had only just begun, and the night was long and full of peace. Ilara, at the heart of it all, remained vigilant and serene, a silent guardian watching over a world that was finally, truly resting together. The forgotten melody played on, no longer forgotten, but alive and breathing in the heart of every dreamer. Within the silent, crystalline heart of the archive, Ilara's consciousness drifted on a current of pure sound. She was a still point in a turning world, a lens through which the universe's quietest song was now being focused. She felt the dreamers not as distant points of light, but as extensions of her own being. She could feel the gentle rise and fall of Valerius's chest as he dreamed of his celestial sea, the soft twitch of Anya's fingers as she reached for a color that had never before existed, the steady, peaceful rhythm of Kyle's breath in his comforting darkness. Her awareness flowed outward, a river of peace, and chose to follow the thread of starlight leading to the old astronomer, Valerius. In his dream, he was not in his dusty observatory, but at the helm of a ship made of moonlight and polished silverwood. Its sails were woven from nebula gas, catching stellar winds that whispered secrets of creation. Before the great melody had begun, this dream had been a lonely one. The void between stars had been a vast, cold emptiness, a beautiful but desolate expanse that mirrored the quiet solitude of his waking life. He had sailed his dream ship through an eternity of silence. But now, everything was different. The melody was the very wind in his sails, a force that did not push but guided. The silence was gone, replaced by a symphony. Each star, each planet, each swirling galaxy pulsed with its own unique note, a clear, crystalline tone that joined the universal chorus. The constellations were no longer static pictures, but grand, slow-moving chords. He could hear the gravitational pull of a distant giant, a deep and resonant bass note. He could feel the fiery birth of a new sun as a rising, hopeful crescendo. Her awareness flowed outward, a river of peace, and chose to follow the thread of starlight leading to the old astronomer, Valerius. In his dream, he was not in his dusty observatory, but at the helm of a ship made of moonlight and polished silverwood. Its sails were woven from nebula gas, catching stellar winds that whispered secrets of creation. Before the great melody had begun, this dream had been a lonely one. The void between stars had been a vast, cold emptiness, a beautiful but desolate expanse that mirrored the quiet solitude of his waking life. He had sailed his dream ship through an eternity of silence. But now, everything was different. The melody was the very wind in his sails, a force that did not push but guided. The silence was gone, replaced by a symphony. Each star, each planet, each swirling galaxy pulsed with its own unique note, a clear, crystalline tone that joined the universal chorus.
The constellations were no longer static pictures, but grand, slow-moving chords. He could hear the gravitational pull of a distant giant, a deep and resonant bass note. He could feel the fiery birth of a new sun as a rising, hopeful crescendo.
Valerius steered his ship not with his hands, but with his attention. He thought of the constellation of the Silver Heron, and the melody shifted, weaving a path of shimmering notes for him to follow. The ship sailed through the heron's outstretched wing, and for a moment the astronomer felt the phantom sensation of celestial feathers brushing against the hull. He was not merely observing the universe anymore, he was a part of its composition. The loneliness that had clung to him like cosmic dust was swept away by this stellar wind. The distance between worlds was an illusion, a pause between notes. Everything was connected by the song. He raised a hand not to a telescope, but as a conductor might, and felt the orbit of a tiny, forgotten moon around a distant gas giant align with the rhythm of his own peaceful heart. He was charting the music of the spheres, and he had never felt more at home. Ilara felt his profound peace and let her awareness drift on another current, this one saturated with impossible hues. She found Anya. The artist was not in her small, paint-spattered studio, but in a place where light and color were tangible, malleable things. She stood in a valley where the rivers flowed with liquid turquoise, and the mountains were carved from solid amethyst. The grass beneath her feet was a soft, living emerald that chimed softly when she walked. Before, Anya's dreams had often been frustrating. She would chase a specific shade of sunset orange or the precise blue of a memory, but they would slip through her fingers like water, leaving her with a dull ache of inadequacy. The world was full of beauty she could see but never perfectly capture. Now, the melody was her medium. It flowed into her hands, and as she held them out, it solidified into shimmering, living color. She cupped her palms, and a sphere of light, the color of a child's first laugh, pulsed gently within them. She thought of the deep, comforting sorrow of a rainy afternoon, and a ribbon of soft, silvery gray spun itself from her fingertips, smelling of petrichor and old books. She was no longer trying to replicate the world's beauty, she was collaborating with it. The melody gave her an intuitive understanding of harmony, not just of sound, but of sight. She saw how the vibrant, joyful yellow of a sunlit meadow needed the quiet, grounding brown of the earth to truly sing. She reached out and gathered strands of light, the deep indigo of a pre-dawn sky, the pale rose of a seashell's inner whirl, the sharp, clean white of a lightning flash. She began to weave them together, not on a loom, but in the air before her. The colors twisted and flowed, drawn by the music, by her own intention. They were forming a tapestry, not of a scene, but of a feeling, the complex, layered emotion of gratitude. It was a masterpiece, born not of struggle, but of effortless communion. Anya wept, but her tears were not of frustration. They fell as tiny, prismatic dewdrops, each one catching the light and refracting the valley's impossible beauty, adding their own quiet notes to the global song. From the vibrant valley of color, Ilara's senses were drawn to a place of profound quiet, a gentle and welcoming dark. There was Kale. His dream was simple, and perhaps the most peaceful of all. He lay on a bed of what felt like cool, soft moss in an endless, starless night. But the darkness was not empty. Before, it had been the home of formless fears, of the anxieties that plagued his waking days. Now it was a sanctuary. The melody here was a lullaby, a deep, resonant hum like the purr of a giant, gentle cat. And in this friendly dark, the light creatures glowed. They were small, shy beings made of soft luminescence. Some were like fireflies, blinking a slow, steady rhythm. Others were like floating jellyfish of light, trailing ribbons of pale gold and soft blue. They had always been there, in the corners of his dream, but he had always been too afraid to look closely. Now, guided by the music's reassurance, Kale sat up. He held out a hand, and one of the little creatures, a small orb of silvery white light, drifted hesitantly towards him. It pulsed with a soft, warm light in time with the melody. It nudged his palm, and he felt not a physical touch,
but a wave of pure, uncomplicated contentment. He giggled, a sound that in the dream space emerged as a small chime. Another, bolder creature, one that looked like a tiny, swimming fox made of amber light, zipped past, leaving a sparkling trail in the air. Kale watched it, his fear entirely forgotten, replaced by a quiet sense of wonder. The darkness was not an absence of light, but a canvas for a different kind of beauty. It was a soft blanket that made the small, gentle lights shine all the more brightly. The light creatures were not monsters, they were his friends. He lay back down on the moss, and they gathered around him, their collective glow a perfect living nightlight, their gentle pulses a visual echo of the world's healing heartbeat. Alara felt the boy's fear dissolving like mist, and knew the melody was working on the deepest, most tender wounds. She let her own consciousness expand further, beyond the dreamers she knew, across the sleeping continents, seeking others. She found a baker in a city of stone and iron. His name was Finn, and his hands, even in sleep, were dusted with the phantom flour of his trade.
His dreams were usually anxious, filled with the rush of the morning, the fear of burnt loaves, and unsatisfied customers. The city's relentless rhythm, the clang of trams, the shout of vendors, the ceaseless hurried footsteps invaded his rest. Tonight, the city in his dream was silent, or rather, its sounds had been transformed. The distant rumble of the all-night forge was a soft timpani drum. The rhythmic clatter of a loose shutter in the wind was a gentle castanet. The city's harsh symphony had been reorchestrated by the melody into a soothing, percussive beat. In his dream bakery, Finn was not rushing. He moved with a slow, graceful rhythm, his hands kneading a dough that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. The dough was infused with the melody. It felt warm and alive under his palms, rising not just with yeast, but with a palpable sense of hope. The air smelled not only of baking bread, but of warm stone after a summer rain, of clean linen, of all the simple, comforting things that the city's frantic pace usually trampled. He was not baking for commerce, but for communion. He slid a loaf into his brick oven, and as he watched it bake, he felt the city breathing with him, its 1,000 different heartbeats for once aligned in a single peaceful pulse. The bread he was making, he knew, would nourish more than the body. It was a loaf of pure contentment. The melody's current then carried Alara far from the cities of men, over vast, sleeping forests, until she felt a different kind of consciousness, one that was slow, ancient, and deeply rooted. She found a woman named Lena, a botanist, dreaming in a small research station at the edge of an old-growth rainforest. Lena's waking life was one of patient observation, of cataloging and studying the silent life of the trees. Her dreams were often a jumble of data and scientific names, a beautiful but disconnected lexicon of the living world. Tonight, she was not observing the forest, she was the forest. The melody had dissolved the boundary between her and the ecosystem she loved. She felt the slow, sweet pull of water from the deep earth up through the xylem of a towering ironwood tree. Her own breath was the great, slow respiration of the canopy, turning moonlight into sugar and life. She felt the intricate, gossamer network of mycelium under the forest floor as a web of interconnected thoughts, a silent, sprawling consciousness that shared nutrients, warnings, and millennia of wisdom. The melody was the language of this consciousness. It was in the rustle of a billion leaves, a sound that was not one of noise, but of shared existence. It was in the patient unfurling of a fern frond, in the slow motion blossoming of a night-blooming orchid. It sent a fragrant chord in the symphony. Lena felt the life of every creature in her forest, the silent flight of an owl, the patient crawl of a beetle over bark, the sleepy curl of a monkey in the high branches, not as separate events, but as integral parts of her own being. The forest's deep, abiding patience seeped into her soul, soothing the frantic, human urgency to know, to name, to conquer. In this dream, it was enough to simply be, to be a part of this vast, breathing, singing life. She understood, in a way no textbook could ever teach, that the forest was not a collection of individual plants, but a single, ancient entity, and for this one perfect night, she was a part of it. Ilara felt the profound, grounding peace of this connection and marveled at the melody's versatility. It spoke the language of stars, of color, of childhood fears, of city rhythms, and of ancient trees. And then she felt it plunge deep, deep down into the cold, silent, crushing pressure of the abyssal plain. There, in the absolute dark of the deep ocean, a great whale drifted in its slow, majestic sleep. Its dreams were not of images, but of pressure, of current, of immense resonant sound. Its world was one of feeling and vibration. Its own songs were stories, maps of the ocean floor, lineages stretching back to a time before ice. The whale's sleep had been disturbed lately by a faint, discordant hum from the surface world, the thrum of engines, the chaotic pulse of machines, a noise that frayed the edges of its ancient, ordered world. But tonight, a new vibration touched it. It was not the sharp, alien noise of the surface dwellers, but something else entirely. It was a vibration that resonated in the massive chambers of its heart, a frequency that spoke the same language as the shifting of tectonic plates and the pull of the moon on the tides. The forgotten melody, filtered through leagues of water and the dreams of a sleeping world, had reached the bottom of the sea. To the whale, it was not a song of notes, but a current of belonging. It felt the distant heartbeat of the forest, the warmth of the baker's oven, the starlight on the astronomer's sail. It felt these things not as concepts, but as harmonious vibrations that wove themselves into its own deep, slow song. The irritating hum of the surface world was absorbed, smoothed over, integrated into this vast planetary harmony. The frayed connections were being rewoven, not just between humans, but between the land and the sea. The whale let out a long, low note in its sleep, a note of acknowledgement, of acceptance. It was a tone of such profound peace that it traveled for 100 miles through the dark water, calming the sleep of the squid and the starfish, a bass note for the entire dreaming planet. Back in the archive, Ilara felt this oceanic peace wash over her, a final, profound confirmation of the melody's power. She was the nexus, the quiet heart through which all these dreams flowed. She could feel the tapestry they were all weaving together. Valerius's starlight thread, Anya's vibrant silk, Kale's soft glowing yarn, Finn's warm earthy flax, Lena's deep green root fiber, and the whale's immeasurably deep resonant bass string. Her own physical form was still, but the archive around her had begun to respond. The crystalline pillars that held the echoes of millennia now glowed with a soft internal light. Each crystal, each stored memory, hummed with a sympathetic vibration, resonating with the living, healing dreams. The memory of a long-dead sailor's love for the sea harmonized with Valerius's stellar voyage. The joy of an ancient artisan discovering a new pigment sang in tune with Anya's living colors. The archive was no longer just a library of what had been. It was becoming a resonant chamber, amplifying the peace of what was now, this very moment. Ilara did not direct the music with conscious thought. She had become an instrument of intuition. She felt a flicker of remembered fear from a child dreaming in a windswept mountain village, and a warmer, more gentle strain of the melody flowed there, like a mother's hand on a fevered brow. She sensed a knot of old grief in a woman dreaming of a lost love, and the music wrapped around the memory, not to erase it, but to soften its sharp edges, to weave it into a larger pattern of life and loss and continuity. She was mending the world, one sleeping heart at a time. The night deepened, stretching its long, quiet hours over the lands and the seas. The work was far from over. There were still countless souls to reach, countless hidden pains to soothe. But the melody was patient. It was as patient as a growing tree, as constant as the turning of the stars. It did not rush, it did not force. It simply offered its peace, an open invitation to every living thing to remember its connection to the whole. Ilara remained at the center, a silent, sleepless guardian, her spirit a luminous thread in the grand tapestry. The world dreamed on, and in its shared dream, it was slowly, gently, and surely becoming whole again. The song played on, seeping into the soil, rising with the mist and echoing in the space between heartbeats. The melody traveled, a river of peace flowing from the heart of the archive. It moved not like sound, which must push through the air, but like light, which simply arrived. It poured down the glowing crystalline pillars, not as a cascade, but as a gentle saturation, until the very stone floor of the great chamber seemed to hum with contentment. It passed through the high, vaulted ceilings, not by breaking them, but by becoming one with them. And then it rose into the vast, star-dusted canvas of the night. It found its way first to the forgotten places. It settled upon the moss that grew in the cracks of a ruined fountain in a lost city, and the moss dreamed of soft rain and centuries of slow, green patience. The melody awakened a faint resonance in the stones of the fountain itself, a memory of laughter and whispered wishes from a time long past, and it soothed the ache of their long silence. It did not wish them back to life, but honored their quiet, dignified sleep. From the ruins, the river of peace flowed outward, seeking the lonely. It drifted across a barren tundra where a single, ancient mammoth, the last of its kind, slumbered in a cave of ice. Its dreams were heavy with the echoes of a lost herd, the phantom calls of its kin across a vast and empty plain. The melody did not conjure ghosts. Instead, it brought the spirit of the tundra itself into the great creature's dream. It brought the unwavering strength of the mountains that had watched its species rise and fall. It brought the silent, sparkling dance of the northern lights, a beauty that existed for its own sake, asking nothing in return. The mammoth dreamed it was a mountain, ancient and unmoving, draped in a curtain of light, and the loneliness in its great heart eased into a profound and solemn stillness. The current of music, soft as moonlight, swept over the great oceans. It descended into the crushing, silent blackness of the abyss, a place untouched by the sun. Here, strange and wonderful creatures drifted in their own cold, slow-motion dreams. A leviathan, a singer of songs so deep and old that they shaped the very currents, dreamed of the sun it had not seen for 1,000 years. The melody touched its dream, and the memory of sunlight became not a painful longing, but a gentle warmth held deep within, a core of light that it carried into the darkness. The Leviathan's own deep song shifted, its mournful tones softening into a lullaby that vibrated through the deep, calming the frantic, fleeting dreams of the silver fish that swam in its shadow. The melody rose from the depths and skimmed across the waves, a silver thread stitching the sea to the sky. It found a ship, a small merchant vessel, its crew asleep in their hammocks. The captain dreamed of a storm, a recurring nightmare of splintering wood and raging water that had haunted him for years. The melody entered his dream not as a counterforce, but as a gentle tide. It did not quell the storm, but instead gave the captain the dream sensation of becoming the water itself. He felt the pull of the moon, the vastness of the ocean's body, the deep, unhurried power that lay beneath the surface chaos. The fear dissolved, replaced by a sense of belonging to that immense power. He was no longer a man fighting the sea, he was a part of its endless, rhythmic breath. He slept on, his face smooth with a peace he had not known since childhood. On the shore, the melody drifted inland, over sleeping towns and quiet villages. It slipped through the window of a scholar who had fallen asleep at his desk, his head pillowed on a book of intractable problems. His dreams were a labyrinth of equations and paradoxes, a frustrating maze with no exit. The music of the archive flowed around his tangled thoughts, not offering an answer, but loosening the knots. It brought with it the simple, elegant logic of a spiraling seashell, the unprovable truth of a fractal frost pattern on the window pane, the patient geometry of a spider's web. The scholar's dreaming mind stopped striving and simply observed these perfect natural forms. And in that quiet observation, a path through the maze appeared, not as a solution forced, but as a clearing discovered. He would not remember the dream, but he would wake with a mind clear and calm, the answer waiting for him in the quiet space just beyond thought. The melody sought out the artists, the makers, the dreamers of new things. It found a potter, her hands still faintly dusted with clay, dreaming of vessels that cracked in the kiln. Her sleep was filled with the anxiety of imperfection, the fear of failure. The melody brought her the dream of a forest floor after a fire. It showed her the beauty of the charred bark, the vibrant green shoots pushing through the ash, the way the landscape was not ruined, but changed, holding a new and starker beauty. It whispered that cracks were not just failures, but lines that told a story, paths for light to enter. The potter's tense hands relaxed in her sleep. She dreamed of a broken pot, its pieces joined with shimmering gold, more beautiful for having been broken. And what of Anya, whose living colors had first helped awaken this great song? The melody returned to her not as a gift given, but as a greeting shared. Her dreams were already a vibrant symphony of color, a garden of impossible flowers, and skies of liquid turquoise. The music from the archive flowed into her dream garden and set the colors to song. The deep indigo of the nightshade pulsed with a low cello note. The brilliant yellow of the sun petal sang with the clarity of a flute. Anya dreamed she was not the painter, but the garden itself, feeling the music as the vibration of her own living pigments. It was a dream of pure, unbridled joy, a celebration of the simple, profound existence of color and light. And Valerius, the star sailor, whose longing for the cosmic ocean had harmonized with the sailor's love for the sea? His dreams were vast and quiet, set amongst the silent swirl of nebulae. The melody reached him across that imagined distance, and it brought with it the dreams of the earth. It brought the scent of damp soil after rain, the sound of wind in the pine trees, the feeling of cool river water on skin. It reminded his dreaming soul of the world he orbited, not as a tether, but as an anchor of love. The stars in his dream seemed to shine with a warmer, more familiar light, each one a reflection of a sleeping soul below. His cosmic journey was no longer a solitary exploration, it was a pilgrimage, his heart connected by an invisible thread of music to the living, breathing world he watched over. Back in the archive, the flow was no longer one way. With every dream it soothed, a gentle echo of that peace flowed back to the crystalline heart. The crystal pillars began to glow with an even richer, more complex light. The memory of the ancient sailor, once a solitary echo of love and loss, was now interwoven with the captain's newfound peace and the whale's deep lullaby. It was no longer just the memory of one man's sea. It was the essential truth of the sea itself, in all its terror and beauty, its solitude and its deep communion. The artisan's joy in his new pigment was now harmonized with the potter's acceptance of beautiful imperfection and Anya's symphony of living color. The memory became a testament not just to creation, but to the entire, messy, beautiful process of making, breaking, and mending. The archive was breathing, inhaling the troubled dreams of the world and exhaling a melody of pure, unconditional peace. The past was not a static collection of records, it was being healed, softened, and enriched by the living present. And Alara, at the center of it all, continued her vigil. But the feeling had changed. She was no longer a musician playing an instrument. The distinction had dissolved. She was the instrument. She was the music. Her physical form, seated on the cool floor, grew faint, almost translucent, a figure woven from moonlight and melody. She did not feel the strain of a million different dreams, the weight of a world's sorrow. She felt it all as a single, vast, and ultimately harmonious chord. She felt the mammoth's solemn stillness as a deep, resonant bass note that grounded the entire symphony. She felt the scholar's quiet epiphany as a series of clear, ascending notes, like a harp glissando. She felt the shared joy of the artists as a warm, swelling harmony of strings. She was the fear of the child in the mountain village, and she was the mother's gentle hand.
She was the grief of the lonely woman, and she was the soft thread weaving it into the tapestry. She was all of it, and in being all of it, she was perfectly, serenely herself. Her consciousness expanded beyond the walls of the archive. She felt the turning of the earth as a slow, majestic rhythm, the pull of the moon on the tides as a gentle cosmic sigh. She was aware of every leaf on every tree, each one a tiny lung for the dreaming world. She felt the slow, patient growth of the crystals beneath the ground, the silent flow of water through the deep veins of the planet. There was no separation. All was one. All was music, and all was peace. The deepest point of the night passed, the moment of perfect equilibrium between the sun that had set and the sun that was yet to rise. In this profound stillness, the melody reached its purest expression. It was a silence that was not empty, but full of every healed sorrow, every quieted fear, every remembered joy. It was the sound of wholeness. For a long, timeless moment, the entire world was held in this perfect, gentle harmony. A single, unified, sleeping soul. Then, slowly, imperceptibly at first, a change began. A new note entered the symphony, infinitesimally soft. It was the first faint hint of dawn, a promise of light still an hour away. The melody did not resist this new note. It welcomed it. It began to weave the promise of morning into its fabric. The deep indigos and resonant bass notes of the night began to soften, making way for the lighter, clearer tones of morning. The song followed the edge of the Earth's shadow as it retreated across the globe. It became the soft gray light that touches the highest peaks of the mountains first. It became the pale rose and soft gold that painted the undersides of the clouds over the ocean. The music was transforming from a lullaby into a gentle aubade, a song to greet the new day. As the light grew, the world began to stir. The mammoth in its ice cave awoke not with its usual ache of loneliness, but with a sense of profound solidity, feeling the strength of the mountain in its ancient bones. It watched the pale sun rise over the tundra and felt not alone, but a part of the vast, silent landscape. The captain on his ship awoke and walked onto the deck. The sea was calm, the sky was clear. He looked out at the horizon and, for the first time, felt no trace of his old fear. He felt the gentle rocking of the ship not as a threat, but as a cradle, and he breathed in the salt air with a deep sense of peace. The scholar sat up at his desk, blinking in the morning light. The tangle of equations from the night before was still on the page, but his mind was clear.
He picked up his pen, and with a sense of effortless grace, the solution flowed from him, as simple and elegant as a frost pattern on glass. The potter awoke and went to her studio. She looked at a pot that had cracked in her last firing, a piece she had been about to throw away. But now she saw it differently. She saw the story in its lines, the unique beauty of its imperfection. She began to mix a fine gold dust, ready to mend it, to make it more beautiful than it had ever been before. In her vibrant room, Anya awoke to a world that seemed to be singing with color. She felt a new urgency, a new joy in her work, a desire to capture not just the image of things, but their very essence, their song. And in homes and villages and cities across the land, people woke up. They did not know that a great work had been done while they slept. They did not remember a song that had mended their hearts. They simply felt better. The small, sharp anxieties of the day before seemed more distant. The old griefs felt a little softer, their edges worn smooth. There was a quiet sense of connection in the air, a feeling that they were not alone in their struggles or their joys. The world woke up to a morning that was fundamentally the same as any other, yet entirely new. It woke up a little more whole. In the archive, the brilliant light of the crystals began to soften, their internal glow receding back to a gentle, dormant hum. The work was done. The melody had woven itself into the fabric of the new day, and its source could now rest. At the center of the chamber, Alara's form slowly regained its substance. The translucence faded, and she was once again solid, a still figure in the quiet hall. But something had changed within her too. The vast cosmic awareness gently receded, leaving behind not an emptiness, but a profound and unshakable peace. She had been the vessel for the world's healing, and in healing the world, she too had been made whole. She opened her eyes, and they reflected the calm, clear light of the new morning. She had been the sleepless guardian, but now her watch was over. Her own peace was the final, quiet note of the great song. And now the melody, having traveled across the entire world, having soothed every dream and welcomed the dawn, has found its final, quietest destination. It has journeyed all this long night to find its way here, to this very room, to you. It no longer needs to fill the sky or calm the seas. Its grand work is finished. Now its only wish is to be quiet, to settle here with you, in the gentle dark. Feel it now, not as a sound, but as a presence. It is the gentle weight of your blanket, a quiet promise of safety and warmth. It is the softness of your pillow, ready to hold your head and let your thoughts drift away. The light of the crystals from the great archive is now just the soft, deep darkness behind your closed eyes. A safe and gentle darkness where no troubling thoughts can find you. The rhythm of the great song, the one that turned the stars and moved the tides, has become very, very simple. It is the rhythm of your own breathing. A slow, easy breath in, and a long, soft breath out. Each breath in draws peace into your heart. Each breath out lets go of the day. Lets go of any worries. Lets go of everything but this quiet moment. In and out. The world is breathing with you. The trees, the oceans, the sleeping animals, the quiet earth itself. You are part of that great, peaceful breath. You are connected to all the peace in the world, and all the peace in the world is here for you now. The story is over. The day is done. The world is quiet, and it is time, now, for you to rest. There is nothing else you need to do. There is nowhere else you need to be. You are safe. You are at peace. It is time to let go of the last little threads of thought. Let them drift away like milkweed seeds on a gentle breeze. Watch them go. There is only stillness now. Only rest. Sleep now. Let the quiet enfold you. Let the peace hold you. Sleep. Sleep. And so, in the quiet that follows, in the stillness that answers, you let yourself drift. You do not need to try. It is not an effort. It is a letting go, a gentle release, like a boat untied from its mooring, allowed at last to surrender to the slow, certain current of the deep and peaceful water. Feel this gentle current begin at the very crown of your head. A soft, soothing wave of stillness washing down over your forehead, smoothing away the last remnants of the day's expressions. It eases the tiny muscles around your eyes, letting them rest deeply in the soft, welcome darkness. It flows over your cheeks and loosens your jaw, letting a little space come between your teeth. All the words you have spoken, all the words you have heard, are done for the day. Now there is only silence. This wave of peace flows down into your neck and shoulders. Feel them release. Feel them grow heavy, heavy with relaxation, heavy with relief. All the burdens you carried, all the things you held up today, you can set them all down now. They will be there tomorrow if you need them, but for tonight, you are free of their weight. Your shoulders sink down, down, into the softness beneath you, grounding you in this perfect, peaceful rest. The stillness travels down your arms all the way to your fingertips. Your arms, which have reached and worked and held on, can now simply be. They lie beside you, heavy and warm and completely at ease. They are like rivers that have reached the great, calm sea, their long journey over, their currents slowing, becoming one with the vast, quiet water. There is nothing more for them to do. The peace flows into your chest, into the very center of you. It surrounds your heart, which now beats in a slow, steady, gentle rhythm. A lullaby beat, a rhythm of safety. With every beat, it whispers, "All is well, all is well, all is well." You can feel your breathing, deep and easy in your chest, rising and falling like the gentlest of tides. Each breath is a wave of calm, washing through you, cleansing you, leaving only peace behind. This wave of deep, quiet rest sinks down into your stomach and your back, loosening every muscle, untying every knot of worry. Feel your whole torso grow heavy, sinking deeper, ever deeper, into the support that holds you. You are held. You are completely and utterly supported. You can let go completely, knowing you are safe. The gentle current of sleep flows down through your hips and into your legs, which have carried you through your day. Their work is done. They become heavy now, so very heavy and so very still. All the miles they have walked, all the standing and moving, all of it melts away into a feeling of profound stillness. This stillness flows all the way down, through your knees, your ankles, your feet, right to the very tips of your toes. Every part of you, from the top of your head to the ends of your toes, is now invited to this deep, deep rest. You are still. You are quiet. You are at peace. And now you begin to sink. Not falling, but drifting. Drifting down, softly, slowly, through layers of quiet. The first layer is the quiet of your room. You drift down through it, leaving behind the shapes of furniture, the shadows in the corners. They are no longer your consign. You are passing through, on your way to a deeper place. The next layer is the quiet of your home. You sink gently through it, past the sleeping sounds of the house settling, past the hum of the world outside the walls. You are leaving the day world behind now. Its time is over. You sink deeper through the quiet of your town, your city. The distant rumble of the world fades into a soft, low murmur, and then into complete silence. The streetlights, the glowing windows, they all recede above you, becoming a distant constellation, and then disappearing entirely. Now you are sinking into the great, deep quiet of the earth itself. It is a soft, welcoming darkness. The darkness of rich soil, of deep roots, of ancient stone. It is a place of absolute stillness and safety. Here, in the heart of the world's quiet, there is nothing to disturb you. Nothing can reach you here. You continue to drift down, softly, gently, weightlessly. The feeling is like floating in deep, warm water, where up and down no longer matter. There is only the feeling of being held, of being suspended in a perfect, peaceful element. And as you drift, you notice a soft, gentle light far below you. It is not a bright light, but a deep, internal glow, like the heart of a cooling ember. It pulses softly, in time with your own slow heartbeat. It is a beacon of tranquility, drawing you deeper into rest. You drift towards it with no effort at all. The journey is easy, inevitable. As you get closer, you see that it is coming from the great archive once more. But it is different now, in this place of deep slumber. The crystal walls no longer shine with the light of 1,000 stars. Instead, they glow with a soft, deep indigo, the color of the midnight sky at its most peaceful hour. The light does not illuminate, it soothes. It is a light that asks for nothing, a light that is simply there, a quiet presence in the gentle dark. You drift inside, into the heart of the world's sleeping memory. The great shelves are still here, but the books and scrolls of starlight are all closed. The stories are sleeping. The songs are quiet. The great melody that soothed the world is now resting here, its work complete. It breathes in this space, a silence so profound it feels like a soft velvet sound. There is no need to read, no need to learn, no need to understand. You are here simply to be among the resting stories, to absorb the peace of their slumber. You are a part of the great quiet now. You drift through the silent aisles. Here and there, a single thread of soft, silvery light drifts out from a sleeping story, like a wisp of a dream. One thread might carry the feeling of cool moss underfoot. Another might carry the scent of rain on dry earth. A third might carry the memory of a kind word, spoken long ago. These are not stories to follow, they are just fragments of peace, remnants of beauty, left to drift in the quiet air. They float around you, brushing against you like the softest silk, leaving behind a feeling of deep contentment. They are the seeds of gentle dreams. You see that in the center of the archive, the threads are gathering. They are being woven, slowly, patiently, into a beautiful tapestry. The loom is silent, worked by an unseen, gentle hand. Threads of moonlight, threads of quiet joy, threads of deep peace, threads of contented silence. They are being woven together to create a blanket of dreams, just for you. A color of deep, restful blue is woven with a silver thread of a happy memory. A band of soft, warm gold, the feeling of sunshine on your skin, is woven next to a deep forest green, the feeling of a peaceful walk among ancient trees. These are not stories to follow, they are just fragments of peace, remnants of beauty, left to drift in the quiet air. They float around you, brushing against you like the softest silk, leaving behind a feeling of deep contentment. They are the seeds of gentle dreams. You see that in the center of the archive, the threads are gathering. They are being woven, slowly, patiently, into a beautiful tapestry. The loom is silent, worked by an unseen, gentle hand. Threads of moonlight, threads of quiet joy, threads of deep peace, threads of contented silence. They are being woven together to create a blanket of dreams, just for you. A color of deep, restful blue is woven with a silver thread of a happy memory. A band of soft, warm gold, the feeling of sunshine on your skin, is woven next to a deep forest green, the feeling of a peaceful walk among ancient trees. This blanket is being made from all the peace in the world, from all the quiet moments, from all the gentle feelings that have ever been. It is a blanket of pure serenity, and as it is woven, it begins to descend, to drift down towards you. It is vast and soft, shimmering with a gentle internal light. It comes to rest over you, and it is the most wonderful feeling you have ever known. It is not heavy, but it has a comforting weight, a substance that makes you feel utterly safe, utterly protected. It is warmer than any wool, softer than any down. It enfolds you, wrapping you in the very essence of peace. Every thread, every color, every pattern is a lullaby for your soul. Under the weightless weight of this dream blanket, the last little bits of you begin to dissolve, not in a frightening way, but in a beautiful release. The part of you that thinks, the part of you that worries, the part of all that feels separate, it all just melts, like a snowflake landing on a warm hand. It melts into the peace that surrounds you. You are no longer a visitor in the archive. You are the quiet in its halls. You are no longer watching the threads of light. You are the light itself. You are no longer breathing the peaceful air. You are the breath. You have become one with the great, silent, resting rhythm of the universe. The gentle pulse you felt from the crystals is your own pulse now. The deep, quiet darkness is your own peaceful mind. The sleeping stories are your own calm thoughts, at rest for the night. There is no you. There is no me. There is only this deep, profound, unending peace. A peace that has no beginning and no end. A stillness that holds everything. Time itself has gone to sleep. There is no past to regret, no future to plan for. There is only the soft, eternal now of deep, dreamless rest. You are at the very center of calm, the very heart of stillness. And here, in this place of perfect rest, there is nothing left to do, nothing left to be, nothing left to think, only to rest, to be held, to be at peace. The gentle darkness holds you, the profound silence cradles you. The great, sleeping heart of the world breathes with you, in and out, a slow, endless tide of peace. Rest now, deeper now, deeper. Rest, peace, sleep, sleep now, sleep deep, sleep. And as you sleep, you drift, not as a body, not as a mind, but as a current of awareness in a great, silent river of being. This river flows through the heart of the quiet, carrying you deeper still, into the final, hidden valley of the night. There is no resistance here. The flow is perfect, gentle, and sure. It carries you as a soft breeze carries the scent of jasmine, as a moonbeam carries the light of a distant star.
You are held completely within this current of peace, and it is taking you home to the purest form of rest. The banks of this river are soft and indistinct, made not of earth or stone, but of sleeping memories and forgotten dreams. You drift past moments of quiet joy, now resting like smooth, glowing pebbles at the river's edge. You glide past old worries, now transformed into soft, mossy banks where silence grows. None of them call to you, none of them ask for your attention. They are simply part of the landscape of your own deep peace, returned to the earth of your being, at rest. The water of this river is the color of the sky just before the first star appears, a deep, luminous indigo. It is not wet, but soothing. It is not cold, but cool with a profound tranquility. Floating here, you feel the last vestiges of the day being washed away, rinsed from you with infinite tenderness. The tensions and muscles you had forgotten you had, the tiny furrows of concern you didn't know were there, they are all smoothed away by this gentle, ceaseless flow. You are drifting toward the source of the silence. The river begins to widen, the current slowing, until it is barely a suggestion of movement. You find yourself floating into a vast, still lake, a place of absolute, glassy calm. The lake of slumber. Here, the water is a perfect mirror, but it does not reflect the sky above. It reflects the pure, peaceful darkness that is within you now. A darkness that is not empty, but full of potential, full of rest. It is the darkness of a seed, dreaming of the flower it will become. It is the darkness of a deep well, holding cool, clear water. It is the darkness of a new moon, holding the promise of a returning light. You float in the center of this lake, a single, peaceful presence in a world of stillness. And you become aware of a gentle light. It is not a light that you see with your eyes, but one that you feel with your whole being. It radiates from the depths below you, a soft, silvery luminescence that rises through the dark water to touch you. This is the light of dreams that are not yet born. It is the quiet glow of all the possibilities that rest brings. This light does not wake you. On the contrary, it deepens your sleep. It is the light of healing, the light of restoration. It fills every part of you that felt tired, every part that felt worn. It is a cool, silver balm, mending you in your sleep, making you whole. The air above the lake is still and fragrant. It carries the scent of night-blooming flowers that grow only in the deepest sleep. Their petals are made of moonlight, and their fragrance is the very essence of letting go. With every slow breath you take, you draw in this scent of peace, and it settles within you, a soft blanket for your heart. Listen.
Not with your ears, but with the stillness inside you. You can perceive a sound, the softest, most distant music. It is the music of the sleeping stars, the slow, cosmic hum of galaxies turning in the velvet of the void. It is a lullaby that has been sung since the beginning of time, a deep, resonant harmony that assures you that everything is in its right place. The universe is breathing, and you are breathing with it. This music is your own resting heartbeat, magnified into a celestial symphony of peace. You are safe here, utterly and completely safe. This lake is your own private sanctuary. No demands can reach you here. No noises can disturb your peace. No thoughts can ripple the perfect stillness of the water. You are insulated from the world by layers and layers of profound quiet. Think of the archive, that great library of sleeping stories. You are no longer in its halls. You are in its deepest, most secret chamber, the heart of the library. Here is where the oldest stories sleep, the stories of creation, the stories of the first silence, the stories of the long, slow, patient turning of the world. They do not need to be read. They do not need to be told. Their only purpose now is to rest. And in their resting, they create this atmosphere of ancient, unshakable peace that now holds you. Their deep slumber is a foundation beneath you, a certainty that you can rely on. You are resting upon the very bedrock of tranquility. And as you float here, held in this perfect balance of gentle light and soft darkness, of profound silence and distant music, a final letting go occurs. It is the letting go of letting go. You no longer need to try to be peaceful. You simply are. You no longer need to try to rest. You are rest itself. You no longer need to seek sleep. You are sleep. You are a soft, sleeping presence floating on a silver-lit lake of perfect calm, under a sky of velvet night, breathing in the scent of moon petal flowers. You are a part of this landscape, and it is a part of you. The boundary between you and this world of sleep has completely dissolved. The gentle light from below begins to pulse very, very slowly, a soft, rhythmic wave of silver peace that washes through you with each beat. It is the pulse of deep, dreamless sleep. With each pulse, you drift a little further. With each pulse, you settle a little deeper. With each pulse, the world of waking fades into a distant, forgotten memory, like a story you read a very, very long time ago. That world will be there for you when you are ready to return. It will wait, but for now, it has no claim on you. Your only home is this stillness. Your only reality is this peace. The story is ending now. It is fading, its purpose fulfilled. It has carried you across the threshold, from the busy shores of the day to this quiet, timeless harbor of the night. It is releasing you now, like a boat being gently nudged away from the dock to drift on its own in the calm, safe water. Let the words dissolve, just as everything else has dissolved. Let them become part of the silent water, part of the quiet air. All that is left is the feeling of being held, the feeling of being safe, the feeling of profound and total rest. There is nothing more to know. There is nothing more to do. Only to be here, in this unending peace, drifting, floating, sleeping. The silvery light holds you. The silent water supports you. The distant music soothes you. The fragrant air calms you. All is well. Everything is at peace. And so are you. Rest now in the heart of the night. Rest now in the soul of the quiet. Rest now in the deepest part of your own peaceful being. Good night. Rest deep. All is well. Sleep now. Sleep. The last word hangs in the air for a moment, a perfect silent bell, and then it too dissolves into the quiet. There are no more words now. There is no more story. There is only this endless, gentle, unfolding moment of pure being. You are drifting in the heart of the great, quiet ocean of night. The journey is not one of distance, but of depth. With every soft pulse of the silver light from below, you sink deeper into tranquility. Not falling, but being lowered with infinite care into the most comfortable and peaceful state you have ever known. The water that surrounds you is no longer just water. It is the very essence of comfort. It is the temperature of a perfect dream, neither warm nor cool, but a seamless extension of your own skin. You feel it against you, and yet you cannot tell where you end and it begins. It is liquid peace, and it is washing away everything you do not need. It rinses away the dust of the day. It smooths the creases of worry. It carries away the weight of memory, not by erasing it, but by making it light and distant, like a feather floating far, far away on a gentle breeze. You are weightless now, utterly and completely unbound. And the light, the soft, silvery light that pulses from the deep, it is the lifeblood of this world. It is not a light that illuminates, but a light that soothes. It flows through you as if you were made of the clearest crystal. It is a quiet, steady hum of peace that resonates in the very core of your being. It finds the tiny, hidden knots of tension you have carried for so long, and with a touch as gentle as a moth's wing, it loosens them. It unravels them. It smooths them into nothingness. This light asks nothing of you. It is a gift, freely given. The light of unconditional rest. It is the quiet glow of your own deepest, most peaceful self revealed. The air you breathe is the sweet, clean breath of the cosmos. The scent of moon petals is no longer just a fragrance. It is a calming thought that you inhale. With every breath in, you draw in serenity, peace, stillness. And with every breath out, you release a little more of the world you have left behind. A sigh of letting go, a whisper of surrender. Breathing in the calm of the stars, breathing out the noise of the day. Each breath is a silent promise. You are safe here. You are home. The distant music has drawn a little closer, not in volume, but in clarity. You realize now what it is. It is the sound of the universe breathing around you. It is the gentle turning of the planets in their silent, graceful dance. It is the whisper of moonlight as it touches the water. It is the song of stillness itself. This music is not for your ears. It is for your soul. It aligns you with the vast, peaceful rhythm of the night. You are a single, perfect note in this grand, silent symphony of rest. There is no discord. There is no disharmony. There is only a profound and all-encompassing sense of belonging. You are drifting further and further from the shore of your waking self. You can just barely see it now, a faint and faraway coastline, and it holds no pull for you. The person you are in the day, with a name and a history, with hopes and with fears, that is a costume you have taken off and left folded neatly on that distant shore. It is waiting for you, safe and sound, but it is not you, not here. Here you have no name. Here you have no past. Here you have no future. You are simply a presence, a quiet awareness floating in a sea of peace. Thoughts may arise like tiny shimmering bubbles rising from the deep, but they do not disturb you. You watch them as they float up, catch the silvery light for a moment, and then pop. They vanish into the quiet, leaving no trace. They are not your thoughts. They are just echoes of a world that is no longer yours. You let them go without effort, without attachment. They are clouds passing in a vast, empty sky. And you are the sky. The feeling of being held intensifies. It is as if the entire universe has become a soft, warm cradle built just for you. The velvet night is your blanket. The silver lake is your bed. The stars are silent guardians, watching over you with ancient, gentle eyes. Nothing can harm you here. Nothing can disturb you. This is the heart of safety. This is the core of peace. You are sinking now, so slowly, so gently, deeper and deeper into the quiet, down, down into the dreamless dark. It is not a frightening dark, but a warm, soft, welcoming dark, like the deepest velvet. It is the dark of the womb, the dark of the seed deep in the earth. It is a place of profound regeneration, of absolute rest, where all is unmade and remade in perfect stillness. The silver light fades, not into blackness, but into a soft, restful dimness. The distant music fades, not into silence, but into a deep, resonant hum. The feeling of water dissolves into a feeling of simply being, without form, without boundary. You are becoming the quiet. You are becoming the stillness. You are becoming the deep, dreamless sleep at the center of everything. There is nothing left to perceive. There is only the feeling of peace. A peace that is boundless. A peace that is endless. A peace that is you. Let go of this final thread of awareness. Let it drift away. Let yourself become the nothingness, the everything, the rest. The story is gone. The voice is gone. Only the peace remains. And the peace enfolds you. The peace absorbs you. The peace is you. Now, rest. Deeply, completely, until the morning comes to gently call you home. But the morning is a lifetime away, an eternity from now. For now, there is only this perfect, silent, unending peace. Sleep now, sleep, sleep.
And the word sleep dissolves, like a single drop of dew returning to the silent lake from which it came. It is just an echo, a soft vibration that ripples outward and fades into the vast, calm ocean of your own inner quiet. The voice you hear now is no longer a voice from outside. It is the gentle sigh of your own breathing. It is the slow, steady beat of your own peaceful heart. It is the sound of the world finally and completely fading away, leaving only you, perfectly safe at the center of your own profound calm. The deep, resonant hum is the universe breathing with you, a lullaby sung in a key only your soul can hear. It is the song of the stars, sung not in the sky above, but in the peaceful, infinite space within you. The silver light of the lake has not vanished. It has melted into you, a soothing, liquid peace that flows through every part of your being, washing you clean with its tranquility. The velvet of the night is no longer a blanket that covers you. It has become the very texture of your rest, profoundly soft and endlessly deep. Your body understands this language of stillness. It remembers this ancient place of absolute safety. Every cell sighs in relief, letting go of burdens you did not even know you were carrying. Your muscles are like heavy silk, unwound and utterly at ease. Your bones feel a pleasant, sinking weight, anchoring you to this deep, restorative peace. You are held so completely, so securely, that there is nothing left for you to do but release. Release into the stillness. Release into the soft, welcoming dark. The quiet deepens around you and within you. It is a living quiet, pulsing with the gentle energy of pure rest. It is here, in this sacred stillness, that you are rebuilt. It is here that you are renewed. Every slow breath you take draws in more peace, and every soft breath you release lets go of the last faint traces of the waking world. Breathing in, and the calm fills you completely. Breathing out, and the day dissolves into nothing. A slow, simple, silent rhythm, the perfect rhythm of sleep itself. There is nothing left to hold on to, nothing left to remember, nothing left to be, except for this peaceful presence. You are drifting on a deep, slow current, carried effortlessly toward an endless ocean of dreamless slumber. Trust this gentle current. Let it take you. It knows the way to perfect rest. It is guiding you home. The hum is fading now, becoming one with the silence. The last echo is dissolving. The final whisper is letting go. All that is left is the boundless, silent, unending peace of the deepest, most profound sleep. Rest now. Drift now. Sleep.